my camera so you could see my entire head, but apparently it decided that it did not want to be fixtified. So hi everybody, happy Wednesday. How are y'all doing?
I blame myself for the changeroony.
Well, but I fixed it though. Like, you changed it and I changed it back, and then it somehow managed to change itself in a completely different way between when I changed it back and when I went on stream.
Rude.
Yes, definitely rude. But everyone survived. So welcome to the first stream of our new streaming week. Woo! Casablanca necklace. So this is and you know, if I were smart, I would remember to load the photos up. But Discord hasn't chimed in yet. You know,
It really hasn't.
It really hasn't. Oh, Discord. Here, I shall chime on behalf of, except not on that channel.
I can post.
I got it.
Okay. Julie saw it. Julie knows what's up.
I mean, it is known.
It is known. It is known.
Okay. There. Now I have chimed in on Discord's behalf. But yeah, so Smarticus that I am, I did not load up the photo. Also, it's a little warm back here in the stream area, so that's going to go away. But so this is basically a class about sheet metal, cutting sheet metal, both cutting it on the outside with a shears and cutting a little bit on the inside with a saw, and we're going to touch on some new finishing techniques, some things that I've kind of started folding into my workflow since the last time I taught this class that involve power tools, y'all.
Yes.
Like, power tool finishing of sheet metal is pretty much the best thing ever. I have decided, so I'm super happy to be, sorry, my bra straps are totally falling down. So I'm super happy to be sharing that with you this evening. So what do you need for this evening's class? Okay, you're going to need some sheet metal. I'm going to be using copper because that was what I had in my drawer. So I've got some 24 gauge copper. If you're going to be cutting it with the shears, you're going to want 24 gauge or 22 gauge at the largest. And trust me, cutting 22 gauge with metal shears is beastie. Like, it's rough. So
it is beast mode 100%.
Yeah, I would, what the hell's going on with my lipstick? I would stick with 24 gauge, personally, were it me. You can use whatever metal you want. Like I said, I'm going to be using copper because that's what I had. But you could use brass, you could use bronze, you could use nickel. I personally hate nickel with a fiery passion, but you know what? You do you. But like I said, we're doing copper tonight. Also, if you have any problems with your hands, like you have arthritis or you have issues with hand strength, definitely copper is going to be your easiest metal to cut, and you may even want to go to 26 gauge, which for anybody who's not familiar with wire gauges, the wire gets, or the sheet metal gets thinner as the number gets higher. So 26 gauge is thinner than 24 gauge, 24 gauge is thinner than 22 gauge, just so that everyone has that kind of baseline knowledge going for them. Oh, that's why I can't find those. They're right there. They've been there the whole time. And back where they go later. So, in addition to your sheet metal, you are going to need various bits and bobs to complete your necklace. So we are going to be taking, and we're going to be cutting out a pendant, and then we're actually going to be sawing out the middle of it and hanging a bead. So I do have one emerald teardrop that I'm going to be using to hang in the middle of my necklace. And then if you want to actually assemble this into a necklace, you're going to need various jump rings. And then depending on how many components you decide to make, you're probably going to need some chain to finish out the necklaces. I do not have either of those things here, but that's not the main focus of the class. The main focus of the class, or the tutorial tonight, is actually cutting and finishing these end pieces. So I will gloss over assembling them, and I'll just have to run and grab some jump rings and things at that point. But I'm going to spend most of my time this evening on how to actually take this and make it into a cool pendant or necklace that's actually wearable. Hi Corvus. I'm just gonna taunt everybody.
German silver, exactly.
With things from tomorrow night's sale. Just saying, grab scissors.
They're amazing. They're so nice and sharp and beautiful.
And I've got these too. And I have snaky scissors that I'll bring in.
Those are awesome.
Won't focus on it no matter what I do.
No.
There we go.
So cool.
So yes, so scissors will be on the sale tomorrow. I just set myself a reminder for snaky scissors though. So bear with me for a second while I text myself.
Okay.
How dare I get multi-chrome scissors? Why, Corvus? Do you want the multi-chrome scissors that look like bird wings? Do you want them, Corvus? Do you want them to be yours?
They should be Corvus.
Just wondering.
So then Corvus and I could be friends.
Because I feel like you and Silvern are going to wind up fighting over these, but Silvern's not here right now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
And I
this
only
does
have
improve
one
your
pair.
chances.
I have multiple pairs of the unicorns, but I only have one pair of these. So anyway, as far as tools go, you're going to need, so like bare bones tool. You are going to need metal shears. You are going to need a jeweler's saw with preferably a 2/0 saw blade. You are going to need, oh my gosh, you're going to need a bench pin. Oh, unless Julie just threw down, Corvus.
Goodness. I love it.
Smack down on the Beading Dream stream. So bench pin, saw, shears, and then sandpaper, steel wool, and then either a hole punch or a drill. So you can use a drill or you can use one of these screw down hole punch jobbers. I'm probably just I may use a screw down, I may use a drill. It depends on how lazy I'm feeling. Tools that are going to make your life easier. Wait, who typed that? Was that Diane?
Must be, because it wasn't me and it wasn't you. Either that or Carol's being real sneaky over there.
Or Corvus.
I wouldn't know how.
Okay, but why? Okay, Corvus.
You can sneak, just not on the computer.
How did that? But that showed up as me. Corvus, how did you do that? Corvus, have you hacked us?
Oh.
Wow, we're not creepy.
Would you like to play?
So, things, if you do, okay, so I spent a great deal of the earlier part of my career trying desperately to work with sheet metal, but I didn't really have anybody to tell me how to do it properly. So what I wound up with were a lot of things that were slightly dangerous to wear, because no one ever really taught me how to finish the edges properly. And okay, that makes much more sense. So I was
Disappointed
like,
it wasn't
sounds
Carol.
like Corvus, but
Yeah.
So as I progressed and as I actually got to interface with some good sheet metal instructors, I took a couple of classes and figured out how to finish the edges so that you're not creating a piece of jewelry that's potentially going to draw blood when you wear it. So tapping down the edges with a chasing hammer, super useful technique. Sandpaper, it seriously took me like 10 years to realize that files don't smooth metal, they just shape metal. If you want to smooth metal, you need sandpaper, and then you need finer sandpaper, and then you need something even finer like steel wool. So, tapping down the edges, sandpaper and steel wool, really, really great. Just recipe for finishing the edges of metal. But if you're doing a lot of it, as you saw Heather and I doing on stream when we streamed for an entire, overnight period, power tools can be really helpful. So, if you have a Dremel or a flex shaft, there are basically 3 things that are going to help you with your metal finishing and are going to make it so much easier. And I wish I had these techniques perfected. Hi, Ivy! I wish that I had these techniques perfected when we did that when we did that overnight, right, Rune, sorry.
Well, I mean, Ivy's good either way.
I wish I'd had these techniques perfected when we did that overnight stream, because it would have been less long, but, you know, live and learn. So 3 tools that we're going to use tonight that are going to help with the finishing of our edges is going to be a sanding wheel, and this is this blue type of sanding wheel comes in fine, medium, and coarse. So this is a medium sanding wheel. This is a set of radial bristle discs, and these babies are the bomb diggity. So what these are is they're actually individual little discs, and then what I've got is I've got a stack of them here. I've got 4 of them stacked up on here, and the thing about these is they are directional, so I will, if I've got time, I'll show you how to load the mandrel with these. So these are the yellow Dedico discs, which are kind of a medium fine, and then I'm going to follow that with the blue Dedico discs, which are fine, and that's going to make a really nice finish on my sheet metal. So we're going to play with power tools in a minute. In order that I can, oh my god, so in order that I can actually spend some decent time on all of these techniques, we're going to make kind of an abbreviated version of our necklace. So the necklace, hold on, BRB. Okay, so the necklace that is the sample for this class, the one that's online, the one that Julie saw, and probably some of the rest of you saw, is a, and the reason I called it Casablanca is it's, you know, kind of a Moroccan-inspired shape for the pendant piece. So it's a pendant piece like this. And symmetry, I suck at drawing symmetrically, and I'm going to show you a trick for that if you're a crappy drawer like me. Or if you're just having an asymmetrical day. But it's a piece like that, and then there's like a center, and I'm kind of doing this from memory, but then you've got several pieces that come up the sides like so, to form the necklace. Okay, so you could theoretically do an entire necklace just of pieces like this, but just for the sake of this project tonight, so that I can really kind of get into that edge finishing with you a little bit and not run over too much, is we're just gonna do this part of the necklace right here. So we're just gonna do the pendant piece, which is gonna have a cutout in it, which is then gonna have a bead hanging in the cutout. So we're gonna do the piece with the cutout, and then that's gonna get a hole, a hole, a hole, but we're just going to do this center section in class, because this piece right here is, we just repeat for all of these pieces as many as you want. The only and you can even do, you know, you can do a hole, a hole, a hole in those pieces like that, and then you can hang a bead from it, or another metal piece. Like, this is the cool, this is one of the many really, really cool things about knowing how to make stuff out of sheet metal, is if you're like, hey, I really want a half circle component.
Half circle fish?
Yes, I want a half circle fish with 3 holes. You can make it. You can make it happen. You can literally create it from nothing, as long as you've got the raw materials, which is a pretty cool thing, I think, to be able to do. Okay, so let's talk about Allison and the fact that she can't draw. So what we're gonna do, because Allison can't draw, is we're going to decide which side of this pendant we like, and I like this side of the pendant. I like the way that I proportioned this. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do this with my metal shears because I don't have any paper scissors. So I'm just going to go that was not what I intended to do. Obviously, Allison cannot work paper tonight, so that's exciting. So back to Corvus's question, she asked if I wear special gloves for cutting metal. And the answer is I don't usually wear gloves when I'm cutting metal, which is, I admit, a questionable choice. But I typically don't wear gloves when I'm cutting. However, I do wear gloves when I'm working with the power tool, and we are going to talk about the safety implications of that in a couple minutes when I get to the power tool. Okay, so this is the side that I decided that I like. So what I did is I just folded my paper on the middle line, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut on this line that I drew. So that's going to give me a symmetrical shape, even though I can't draw a symmetrical shape to save my life. And if I don't want to get confused by all of my lines, I can just use it face down. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to plop it onto my metal, and I'm going to trace it. Now you could scribe it, which is what I'm going to do. You could do this with, my scribe is stuck. There we go. You could also do this with a marker if you wanted to. You don't have to use a scribe. So I'm just going to put it on there. I could rubber cement this down if I really wanted to be sure that it was getting a good scribe line, but I think I'm just going to kind of wing it. So I don't use a scribe as often on metal as I use a marker because scribe lines are not removable and marker lines are, and I am a wuss. I am scared of commitment to scribe lines. So, but I'm pretty confident about this. So you can see there's my piece that I scribed out. So now I'm just going to use my shears. And I personally, even though it is a little wasteful, but I find, and so I wouldn't do this with like sterling, but I will do it with copper. I find it much easier to cut if I remove that whole chunk of metal and then I cut the fine shape with my shears. So I'm just going to cut on my scribe lines. And you can see the 24 gauge copper cuts pretty easily. Can't decide if that's too bright. It's a little bright. But I'm going to make it darker, and then it's going to seem like really dark. Okay, that's actually pretty. That's still reasonable. Okay, so continuing on, I'm going to cut this out. By the way, Heather, what are we talking about tonight?
I don't know.
Hey, what do y'all want to hear us talk about tonight?
Yes.
Because we have no topic chosen for the button list tonight. So again, the copper is pretty easy to cut. If you're a first-time metal cutter, I would highly recommend copper because it's soft. If you have any problems like arthritis or issues with hand strength, I would highly recommend copper because it's easiest to cut. Okay, so there's my basic pendant shape, which somehow is still a little wonky. Don't ask me how I did that. We're gonna go with talent.
Soup recipes.
Ooh.
I do enjoy soup, but I don't know if that would be as scintillating to listen to. Might have to put a warning beforehand. Don't listen while hungry.
Right?
Keiko, we've already talked about those, though. Because we cannot resist a good tangent.
It's true. We cannot resist a good tangent. We are tangential people.
And parenthetical. My nested parentheses in my conversations are just epic.
Okay, so this is not perfect, but we're going to go with it. I definitely, in attempting to fix it, I did not fix it. I actually made it completely cattywampus, so go me.
Yay! Hi,
Scott. Are you attempting to send us off on a tangent? Because that's what the next broadcast is for.
Yes. My brain keeps trying to turn that into tangenti, and then it just turns into talenti, and now I need some gelato.
Okay.
Gelato and a container.
I mean, that is the benefit of Talenti, is you
Yes.
do get the gelato and the container.
Yeah, I mean it's a solid.
I'm gonna say it's a solid marketing,
Yeah.
thing. Okay, we're gonna go with this. Like I said, not perfect, but for the purposes of the tutorial, this will do. So this is gonna be my pendant, and then I am gonna go ahead and do that little semicircle bit as well. And I'm gonna do the half circle fish, and I handily have some circles that I cut out of this piece of copper at some point prior to this, so I can just use one of those and cut it out.
Scott, every time you show up, it's right on time.
It's true.
Favorite and least favorite materials to work with? Probably.
I mean, that could be fun. Not old resin that turns into the ectoplasm from Ghostbusters. That is one of my least favorite materials to work with. Heather, how about you? And then I can cheat on this a little bit, because I can actually put it on the edge there, and I can use that edge. Scribe. Now again, this is a little wasteful.
Hey, Sophia. Nah, party don't start till Scott walks in. It's true.
If this was sterling, I would be ooching this much more close to the edge, but since it's copper, again, it can be a little bit more slack with my... I mean, you should see most jewelers, myself included, with a sheet of silver. We're like, no, I can get in there. I can make it fit. It's sometimes verging on comical. Ibra.
Ibra.
That
sounded normal.
Well, I had metal and it was possibly about to have a gravitational incident. So, yes, Scott is going to be in Dallas next weekend.
What?
Yep.
That's awesome.
He's staying like all the way out by Grapevine Mills.
Oh. But that's not that far. I mean, considering it's a lot closer to
It's
us
true.
than,
It's a lot closer to us than Chicago is. Okay, so then these are my two pieces, and now I'm going to do my cutout in the center. And this one, I'm going to be totally a coward, and I'm going to use my gold-leafed Sharpie to draw my cutout, so that if I screw it up, so if I screw it up, I don't have to keep it. Okay, that's going to be good enough. So, when you are... Wow, that is a solid amount of sterling, girl. Like, that shit is worth a decent amount at this point. Okay, so when you're cutting from the inside of a piece of metal like this, you need to make yourself an ingress to the metal, which is basically just me using fancy words to say you need to make a hole so you can thread your saw blade through and you can cut that metal. This isn't like cardboard or paper where you can like fold it in half and cut it with a shears. It doesn't really work that way. So you have to use a saw to cut out from the interior of the metal, and the proper term for that is piercing. When you are cutting your hole for your saw blade, you want to make sure that your hole winds up somewhere within the area that's going to get cut out. And so that for me is going to be all of this area that I am messily coloring in. So this is all the stuff that's going to go away. So you want your hole to be somewhere in that, because otherwise you're going to wind up with this like really awkward ass hole with a cut line like in the body of your piece that you're keeping. So that is not the goal. So anywhere within
this is fair game for my hole. I usually like to put my holes somewhere close to the edge, but not right on the edge, because it can, if it's right on the edge, it can make the end of that cut a little bit awkward. Also, I'm gonna be a smart panda.
What?
I'm gonna wrap my finger before I start sawing, because this is the finger that always gets cut when I'm sawing, and so I am going to wrap it before I begin, so that you don't have to hear me curse and see me bleed on the stream. So also, this springy bandage wrap stuff, honest to God, my favorite thing ever.
It is so good.
It's the best. So, okay, so now I am protected. I have my finger prophylactic on, and now we're going to go ahead and make our hole.
Who doesn't like a good finger prophylactic?
I mean, I do, because I mean all the cuts just finally healed on that finger. It's nice. I'm not gonna say I have no cuts on my hands, but I don't have any cuts on that finger right this moment. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use my hole punch to make my hole, because my drill's all the way over there and I have to like reach and stuff. So I'm just gonna take my hole punch and screw it down like so, twist it till it pops through my metal, and then back it up. Oh, yes, kitty claws. We'll do that. Is your finger okay? All right, then I'm gonna take my bench pin, and I'm going to, apparently my camera is tethered. To untether the camera. Okay, so my bench pin, no, come this way please, thank you. It's like, meow. Okay, so I'm gonna take my bench pin and I'm gonna clamp it onto my worked surface. So since I don't have a proper jeweler's bench, this is a clamp-on bench pin. These are nice for those of us who tend to just, saw on whatever surface happens to be available, as opposed to having a proper bench to work at. And they also travel really nicely because they break down pretty flat. So now I've got my hole in there. I'm going to set that over the V slot of my bench pin. Remember, when you're sawing, you always want to try and control your piece from both sides. That's going to lead to your most efficient and accurate cutting. I've got my saw blade loaded into the bottom of my saw frame. I'm going to go ahead and load that through that hole I cut with my drawings upwards, and then I'm going to press my saw against my table to get some tension on that blade. I'm going to lay the blade into that top receptacle, and then I'm just going to screw that nut closed. And your blade should be nice and tight. Now I'm going to saw. So what I want to do is I'm just going to concentrate on moving my blade straight up and down, and I'm going to saw to my line, and then I'm going to turn, and I'm just going to saw around the line that I drew. And because I really like to hold, as you can see, in front of my blade. Stay, damn you. It's like, nope, screw you. There we go. Okay, I really like to hold in front of my blade, which is why wrapping this finger is a really good choice for me. So when I get to the bottom, I'm just going to pivot and then go back up the other side. So a lot of people will lubricate the saw blade with either beeswax or something like Burr Life, and when I'm doing more complicated cuts, I will do that. This cut is pretty simple, so I did not do that. But if you find that your saw is binding a lot, some kind of lubricating substance is helpful. Again, Burr Life, you can use 3-in-1 oil, you can use olive oil, you can use beeswax. Shit you not, I had a friend once who used Astroglide. The jury's still out on how effective that was. Okay, so this is where I always get into trouble. This is where I always get my cuts. Because I'm here at the end of the cut, and what's going to happen is once I reach the end of my cut, my blade's going to jump forward. So an intelligent person would get their hands, out of the way of the saw blade. But I'm not always an intelligent person, and sometimes I'm concentrating too hard on holding it down to realize that I'm getting to the end of my cut. So that's why. See, did you see how that, once it didn't have any resistance, how it bounced forward? So if it bounces forward when I happen to be on a downstroke, that's how I get all those lovely cuts on my finger. And I know, right? Sternum dents. The gal that taught me how to saw actually taught me to put it in my stomach, and I'm like, that's not fun. Like, what the hell? Why? Why would you do that to yourself? And then I'm just gonna undo, and there we go. Okay, so those are my two pieces. So right now, these two pieces are definitely not finely finished at all. Like, I would not advise, running my finger along the edge of this with any kind of pressure. You can, the edges look very raw and unfinished. So, this is definitely, and these corners are very sharp. This point is very stabby. So right now, these are, this is phase 1. Now, we could go through, we could clean this up with files, we could hand sand it, and steel wool the edges. If you wanted to texture it, you could texture it with a hammer. You could absolutely also, tap down the edges. But we're going to use power tools instead. I know, well, what she was like, okay, now put it in your stomach and then tighten your abs, which I was dancing professionally at the time, so I had abs to tighten, which is not so much the case anymore.
Oh, they're in there.
But, yeah, I mean, well, they're keeping my guts from spilling out all over, the floor, but they're definitely not what they used to be. But, I mean, I was just like, that's terrible. That's so bad. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and grab the Dremel. You can also, of course, do this with a jeweler's flex shaft, which is what I have over there, but Heather's lovely Dremel is what I have here. So I'm going to start with the edges. So I'm going to start with my sanding disc, and I'm going to show you one of my favorite kinds of mandrels, which are these quick change mandrels, and they don't make every particular type of abrasive for these, which is a bummer, but I love these because these mandrels, which, like I said, if I have time I'll show you how to load one of these. You literally need to take a screwdriver and like hold it and unscrew the little screw and put the things on and screw the screw back on. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But these, you just pop it off and then you grab a new one, you pop it right back on, and the little split in the mandrel holds the tension so that it didn't come off. These things are the bomb because these discs, as you could see if I hadn't just dropped that one on the floor, is you go through, it's like sandpaper, you go through them pretty quickly. When they start getting really, really worn on the edges, usually that's a signal that it's time to change. Now, since I'm going to be dealing with my power tools, I am going to put on my gloves, and we're going to have a real quick safety lesson about gloves, masks, and power tools after I grab a mask. Okay, so if you're sanding, especially if you're sanding a lot of things, you really should wear a mask because sanding is putting metal particulates into the air and you really do not want to be breathing that shit. I mean, do I put on a mask if I'm just going to sand a couple corners on one item? No, I don't. But if I am sitting down to do a bunch of sanding, I absolutely will wear a mask, and trust me, it makes a huge, enormous difference in the way that my lungs feel. So mask is going to go on. Wow, that mask is does not want to, it's not a good city mask. Okay, we're just going to go no. Okay, so
Okay, now the mask is just trying to like murder me in the face. All right, we'll put that on in a minute. Okay, gloves and rotary tools. Thank you. Okay, gloves and rotary tools. So I like to wear full gloves when I'm using a rotary tool. This is because part of my job is that there's a problem here. Can anyone guess what the problem is? So most instructors will tell you do not ever wear gloves when using a rotary tool, and that is because what can happen is the rotary tool can grab your glove and it can twist it, and if it twists it hard enough, that can be your finger in there as well, and that can be bad. So bear in mind that the choice to wear gloves while using a rotary tool does contain a certain amount of risk, and it should always be made with the understanding that you are assuming some risk by doing it. Now, you can get just finger protectors from Amazon or from the jewelry companies that aren't full gloves. Those are much safer. If you are going to wear gloves like I do, you want to make sure that they are tight fitting. Okay, you don't want to have gloves that are too big for you, because the more stuff that's hanging out, the more that can get caught in your rotary tool. So these are a size small. I could probably also get away with an extra small of these, but I like wearing some kind of finger protection when I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. Number one, your metal is going to get very warm because friction, and second of all, in case you run into an edge that is stabby, it's nice to have something on your hands. Now, the other thing you always want to do when using a rotary tool is you want to make sure that you put your hair back, because just like your gloves, your hair can catch in the rotary tool, especially if you are leaning down to look at your work, and that's no bueno. And then of course eye protection also. Hi, Silver. Oh, I love how I used a paintbrush and I have a hair fork right freaking here. Eye protection, if you're not dealing with something that's crazy, just your regular glasses are fine, but they do of course have more exciting eye protection for more exciting projects. So I'm going to start with that sanding disc, which I don't know where it went, so I'm going to use this one instead. So I'm just going to load that into my Dremel. And I'm going to say it again. I've said it like a bajillion million times. But if you are using a Dremel, spend the money on this infinite chuck thing. Because you'll remember back in some of my earlier streams with this, I was just changing the chuck all the time, and it was a complete pain in the ass. When I found this in with my stuff, I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy. Because it really does make a huge difference as far as like just time saved. Okay, so I've got my sanding disc in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that sanding disc to smooth down the edges and the corners of my pieces. But first I'm going to go ahead and put on my mask. Because again, metal in the lungs, never a good thing. Alright, so I'm going to turn this on, and kind of at a medium-high speed is good. And then I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to get all my edges. So what I want is, you can see the difference even already, like where I've cut it, it looks kind of sharp, and where I've sanded it, it looks nice and smooth and consistent. That's what I'm going for. And I'm going to get that point as well. And I'm going to get the other side. And so you can see, there is metal coming off. There is dust.
This is the stuff that you don't want to inhale. Okay, and I did some sort of inconsistent cutting there, so I'm just going to use my sanding disc to smooth that down. Alright, there we go. So that's much better. Knock off my corners. And I can also use this to change the shape. Like, I'm a little wonky here. I can actually sand that down to make that shape more similar to the shape on the other side. And then I want to get the inside as well, which is a little bit more tricky, but on a bigger shape like this, it is doable. And what I'm doing is just kind of focusing on the edge of my sanding disc as being the part of the tool that I'm trying to use. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on my little half circle. This is going to be a lot quicker. Okay, first of all, I want these corners to go bye-bye. Bye-bye, corners. Nobody likes you. And then we're just going to get this straight edge and then the curved edge. So that's easy peasy. Now, could I do all of this with sandpaper in my hand? Of course I could. This just makes it quicker. And once again, if you're doing one piece, no big deal. If you're doing 50 pieces, time is money, y'all. Alright, so there we go. So that piece is sanded as well, so you can see how the edges are starting to look more consistent on that. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So now I'm going to switch to my yellow wheel, and I'm going to attempt to not completely destroy everything with my mask. Look, it's a mask crown. It's very sexy. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to my yellow wheel. I'm going to use that on both the edges and the surface. So once again, this is all that stuff that you don't want to be breathing in. That's why I was wearing a mask. So since I'm going to yellow wheel the surface, it doesn't matter that there are lines on here of Sharpie. If I wasn't going to yellow wheel my surface, I could take some rubbing alcohol or denatured alcohol and take that off. And cornerless rectangles. And Kenneth makes a good point. It would be a good idea to clear your studio area of unmasked fur babies as well if you are going to be sanding, because it's not good for them to breathe that in either. Okay, so now we're going to do the yellow wheel, but we're going to do the yellow wheel, but I'm going to show you how to load it, because this was another thing that, like, nobody taught me how to do this, and I was literally doing it wrong for years. So this is a screw mandrel. So literally I'm going to take a tiny Phillips head screwdriver and just use that to unscrew the screw, or you can use that as a brace and unscrew the mandrel, really, whatever floats your boat. And the screw is just going to come out from the mandrel. So when you're loading your radial bristle discs, you will focus, camera, will you focus please? Okay, so you can barely see it, but on one side of the radial bristle discs there's going to be the brand name. You want to make sure that the brand name of your discs as you're stacking them is facing the top of the screw, and then they will be the right way, and then they will work. If you put them on the other way, they will do jack diddly squat. So I've got them on there, and I've got, like I said, I've got a stack of 4. You can play with different sizes of stacks just depending on what you're doing. Obviously, the bigger your stack is, the more area you can get at once. The smaller your stack is, the more precisely you'll be able to get into tiny areas. So for flat things, I find that a stack of 4 or 5 is perfect. So hierarchy of abrasives. Okay, this is turning into a very wordy tutorial. So I hope that this is all information that you want to know. So hierarchy of abrasives. Okay, when you're dealing with metal, just like when you're dealing with, say, furniture, you always want to go from the coarsest abrasive to the finest. So in our hierarchy of abrasives that we are using this evening, the medium sanding disc is the coarsest, the yellow wheel is the next coarsest, and the blue wheel is the finest. What that means is if I'm finishing this up and I'm blue wheeling it and all of a sudden I see a big ass nick out of the side of it that I need to go back in with my sanding disc to fix, then not only do I have to do then I have to go, like if I'm going to go backwards, then I got to go through all the steps again. So if I have to go back to the sanding disc for some reason, then I got to do the yellow wheel again, not necessarily on the whole piece, but on whatever area I address with that coarser, I keep wanting to say adhesive, and the word is abrasive. So if I say adhesive, please know that I mean abrasive, because there are no adhesives in this evening's tutorial. So if I've addressed an area with that coarser abrasive, I need to go through all the steps. You can't just skip back to the sanding disc and then back up to the blue wheel. It doesn't work that way. Like you gotta hit all the steps in between, and so you always want to go coarse to fine. So we've done our courses, so now I'm gonna unload my sanding disc. And these guys are just cardboard. See how in my carelessness, I bent it, but it's also, this one's kind of, it's kind of tapped out. See, that's what I was saying about when it gets really worn around the edges. So there's no abrasive left here. It's just cardboard. Okay, that needs to be a button. A cat with an N95 mask must be a button. Hashtag button list. So I'm just gonna put a new one on here. These things come in packages of like 100 or 200, because they are definitely consumables. Like they don't last much longer than sandpaper does. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my yellow wheel and I'm gonna load that into my Dremel. And then what I'm gonna do with the yellow wheel is I'm actually gonna go over the whole thing, edges, outside, inside, and both surfaces, because if you look at this surface, this is just like this is the raw surface of the metal. Like this is literally like, how it came out of the package, plus it's been sitting in my drawer for God knows how long, and obviously I spilled something on it there's some oxide. And then a lot of times when you get sheet metal just straight up out of the package, you'll get these there are these lines, or these production lines on it. I don't know if you can see that, but so taking a yellow wheel to the surface is going to make those all go away. Now what it's also going to do is it's going to matte my surface down. So here's what we do. If you want to mirror finish this puppy, rock and roll, you can't, it's just like the furniture. You can't go straight to the mirror finish. You got to clean it up first. So I don't know if I showed you my miraculous polishy polish. Ooh, but I should, because it's really cool. Okay, I might run a little into, we might just like roll into podcast time, if that's cool, Heather.
Sure.
Because I'm talking about like things and stuff and stuff and things. So, okay, so. But so first of all, this stuff is the utter shit, and I will show you how this works in a minute, except I didn't grab a felt buff. And also, these little bastards, another reason to wear a mask. I will talk about that in a minute. But still, you can't jump, even though this polish is absolutely the shit, you cannot jump straight to a mirror finish. You've got to clean it up first. So even if you're going for a mirror finish, I strongly recommend yellow wheeling and blue wheeling first, because it's gonna give you a better mirror finish than just, trying to jump the gun and go straight to it. No, it's not shit, Lori. It's the shit. Different connotation. Or as Mandy would say, it is the tits. Because this stuff it's amazing. I discovered this less than a year ago from some random dude on YouTube, and it is like amazeballs. Okay, so I'm going to put my gloves back on, because once again, that's what I do. If you're wearing gloves, just make sure that you're safe with them. Ooh, tentative agreement between studios and SAG-AFTRA.
Ooh.
Okay, that's potentially good news. All right, mask on, because even though you're not sanding anymore, you're not putting as much dust into the air. What's actually going to happen is this degrades as you use it. So this too is a consumable. This is not a forever thing. What you're going to notice if you use these is they're just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and eventually you're going to have to toss them and replace them with new ones. And so that degradation of your wheel is putting particulates into the air. So once again, don't want to breathe that shit. Just no bueno for the lungies. So mask back on. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to yellow wheel the whole thing. So you're going to see pretty quickly the change in the surface when I do the yellow wheel. So see that? So what you're doing, okay, and I know particulates in lungs is bad, but can you guys hear me okay with the mask on? Because if you can't, I'll take it off. So these wheels, Corvus, are called radial bristle discs. And 3M makes them, and a company called Dedico makes them. And I'll type that in when I'm done with this. So what polishing is, essentially, is it's just making smaller and smaller scratches. Yes, what Keiko said. It's just making smaller and smaller scratches in the surface of your piece. So this is like my, my level 1 scratches. But see how like all of these weird like stainy things that are on my piece, those are about to go bye-bye. And you don't have to do this. I do that. All you have to do is hold it steady and just go down the piece with your wheel. However, okay, we're gonna see if I can get the camera to show this. So you can tell, even on the camera, this is the one I went one direction, and this is the one that I kind of jittered back and forth, okay? So it is very obvious, the directionality of this. So sometimes going in circles, like so, is better because you don't get that really defined stripe. I need to figure out what the F is up with the microphones. Why that freaking frame is quieter than everything else. It's just gotta be pulling from the wrong mic. Okay, so that's my yellow wheel on that side. And the cool thing about this is, because of the way that the radial bristle discs work, like as I'm doing this, it's see? That's one of the things that can happen. It could have caught my glove there. It's getting the edges as well. So I don't really have to concentrate too much on doing the actual edges. And then I'm going to do the other side. And you're going to see those Sharpie lines are going to go bye-bye. I will. Okay, yes, that's a good point, Corvus. So you'll also notice that, that kind of weird oxidized copper finish is going away. So now we have this nice, pretty, satiny, shiny copper finish, and the edges are nicer feeling. I mean, I've got gloves on, but I promise you, I can tell you that they feel better. And then I'm going to do the same thing on my little half circle. Equipment troubleshooting. right? Okay, so now both of my pieces are completely yellow wheeled. So now I'm going to switch over to my blue wheel. So again, hierarchy of abrasives. Sanding disc first, yellow wheel next, blue wheel after that. So undo, yellow wheel, pop the blue wheel in, and so this is still going to be a matte-ish finish, but it's going to be a shinier matte finish, if that makes sense. So you can see the scratches where I blue wheeled, they're not quite as obvious. So that's what it is that's what polishing is. You're making progressively smaller scratches on your item. So this is the blue wheeled side. That's this one, and this is the yellow wheeled side. So you can see the difference. You can see noticeable scratches on the yellow wheeled side. On the blue wheeled side, they're much less noticeable. Okay, so now that whole thing is blue wheeled. This way. Okay, so now everything is yellow wheeled and blue wheeled. So what I have now are two pieces that, first of all, have a really nice hand feel on the surface of them. Like the surface just feels really nice and silky, and all of those edges that were potentially dangerous are gone. So I have some things that, first of all, feel really nice on the surface, look really nice on the surface, and then feel really nice on the edges as well. So now I could totally, like, the sample, the one that's on the, that I posted for the example for this class, this is as far as I went with the finish. Was essentially a blue wheel finish, except for that one I did by hand with 320 grit sandpaper. So again, this is, and see, look, there's still dust. Like, it's not as much as when I was sanding, but it's still there. So again, could you accomplish this completely by hand? Absolutely, of course you can. But if you're doing quantity, this is faster. And also I did want to just type the two brands. So the two brands are Dedico and 3M. I think the ones that I have are Dedico, and the different colors are different grits. I honestly don't know what grits these are. I'm sorry, but yellow and blue is what you want. Okay, so now we're going to use this magical substance. So apparently you get this at the auto parts store. I got mine from Amazon, but I was researching how to high polish, and I'm just going to stay on this frame since my mic apparently in the other frame is being weird, and so I'll figure that out during the talking stream. But so if you're a classically trained jeweler, what you would do to get a mirror finish from this is you would then use what's called a Tripoli, and then you would use a rouge, and then you would use a final polishing compound, and then you would wind up with a mirror finish. So as far as traditional jewelry training goes, you can't go from this finish to a mirror finish without several steps in between. But, I kid you not, this is amazing. So for this, I'm going to use a soft, floofy felt buffing wheel. And I am definitely going to put on my mask for this because this booger is going to like put floof all over everywhere and everything. Like I am going to be covered in floof by the end of this. And that's fine. I don't mind being covered in floof, but I don't want floof in my lungs. And then I'm going to take, and I'm just going to do half of this so you can see the difference. And then I'll do the other half. So of course Mr. Dude on the internet did it with his fingers. I like to use a paintbrush, and you don't need a ton. You just want a really light coating on here, like really, really light. Too much and you're just gonna wind up like with just goop everywhere. Okay, so I'm gonna polish this half. So I just have a really light coating painted on there. I will, absolutely. So I'm gonna set that down, and I'm gonna put my other glove on, and I'm gonna mask up, because again, floof in the lungs is not always the best thing. Never the best thing, actually. No one wants floof in the lungs. Okay. So, here we go. So I'm just going to take my floofy buff on the side that I put the, can you see it flying? The floof is flying. And I'm just going to apply a decent amount of pressure onto where I put the polish. Well, something just went on the floor. Look at that. Straight up mirror finish. It works with bronze, brass, silver, copper, every metal that I have tried it on. Now this is an, let's see, can you see? There, okay. So right here, there's a scratch. See it? If I want to make that scratch go away, what I have to do is I gotta go back. I should have done some more work with my yellow wheel, or maybe even, you know, found like a fine sand, like something, that was a fine sanding. Found something in between the fine sanding disc and the yellow wheel, like a slightly coarser wheel, to get that out. Because I can polish this. I can polish with this till Kingdom Come, and that scratch isn't going to go away. If I want to make that scratch go away, I've got to go back to the previous set of abrasives to make that go away. Yes, this would not work with polymer clay, but it works with all of the metals that I've tried it with. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this other side real quick. But yeah, it's, and once again, see all this floof? I do not want all this floof in my lungs. Alright, so there we go. One shiny piece. And I'm gonna leave the back side just with the blue wheel finish on it, and then I'll do the same thing with this baby. Not quite enough polish on my wheel to do that, so I'm just gonna apply a little bit of polish on there. See? Look at that. Like, it takes practically no time. Amazing. shiny finish on one side and blue wheel finish on the other side. All right. So once again, this is all stuff you don't want in your lungs. This is why you wear a mask. And I hate masks, by the way. I hate respirators. I hate gloves. So if I'm wearing one, you know that it is important. Because, what did I do with the lid of this? I have no idea what I did with the lid of the polish. Oh, it fell on the floor. So like, if you see me wearing gloves, if you see me wearing a mask, it's an important thing. Because I really dislike them quite a lot. Okay, and now let's punch some holes and put this baby together, which means I am going to have to go grab some jump rings real quick. Just 2 though, and some chain. So I'm gonna put 2 holes in here because I am I'm pretty sure that emerald drop is also on the floor. So I'm going to grab another drop, but I'm going to put a drop hanging here. I'm going to put a hole here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it together like so, which means I need my Sharpie. So I'm going to do a hole there. I'm going to do a hole there. I'm going to do a hole here, and then one there, and one there to attach it to some chain. So I could totally drill those, or I can use my screw down punch. Since my screw down punch is handy, that's what I'm going to use. Now that I'm not using the rotary tool anymore, I can take the hair down. But seriously, just don't put your hair back. I know I don't always, but really it's just smarter. So I'm just gonna line that up. Punch my hole. And then I'm going to line this one up. Okay, so those are my 2 holes for there. That one definitely did not turn out centered. Oops. Oh well, too late now. What I would probably do, the only way to fix that, and you can't really fix it, but what I could do is I could take a drill and I could go in there and I could just kind of turn that more into an oval that was centered over that point, as opposed to this kind of wonky circle that I have now. And then we're going to do the others. So the moral of that story is make sure that you check and see if your punch is actually sitting on your dot before you punch it through, instead of just guessing. Also, if you wanted a smaller hole, again, that's where a drill would come into play, because these punches only go so small. This one I think is a 1.6 millimeter. I think the smallest punch I've ever seen is like a 1.25 millimeter. With the drill, you can get much smaller than that. Yep, seriously. Okay, so that's all my holes punched. Just put my little guy together there. So I'm gonna go run quick, and first I'm gonna grab the lid to this off the floor, because you want to keep your chemicals lidded and capped as much as possible. Okay, so I will BRB. You can stare at that for a bit.
Oh,
Okay, I have returned. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, must stop right now and look. Hopefully Discord will let me see it. Ah, so many notifications. Doesn't. Ugh. Okay, I'll give it a minute to update because apparently my Discord is just being slow. Right. Oh, wire. Also need wire. Okay, so let's just do a little bit of quick assembly on this one. Okay, so, all right, so I've got, now I've got jump rings. This is more jump rings than I needed, but I just grabbed some, and Keiko's right, these are my little robot seeds. So if I feed them and I oil them, then maybe I will have tiny little robots growing soon. I'm gonna go ahead and, I think I'm gonna put this kyanite in the middle of this. I think that's gonna be pretty cool. So I'm gonna take my copper wire. This is some 26 gauge copper that I just grabbed from over there. And I'm gonna just do a top drill wire wrap on this. Excuse me. Oh, come on. Okay. Oh, this bead is too small. Pardon me for a moment. Oh, too late. Already knocking things over and the wrong gauge of wire. Let's cross our fingers. Okay, wait. Come on. Must see. Ha, there we go. I love it. That's amazing. Thank you, Kenneth. This wire is also too big. This is getting old very quickly. I know, it's called Allison, Plan Your Projects Better. The fact that this bead has like 4 holes is not helping me any. Ha! I found the right hole. That's what he said. Okay, so. Okay, so wire through your bead like so. You're going to bend it up so that it makes a triangle at the top of the wire, like so. You're going to grab the long part of the triangle, flip it up so that it lines up. Oh, itchy nose, stop it. So that lines up with the center of your bead, and then you're going to wrap the short one around the long one 1.5 times. And I just use my fingers for that so that I can get that wrap absolutely as close to the point of the bead as possible, like so. Okay, so now I have a bead on a stick. And now I'm going to do my basic wire wrap loop. And I want my basic wire wrap loop going in this plane because I want it to hang in here. So that means I'm going to start looking at the front of my drop, and I'm going to go away, rotate, back up over the top, rotate underneath so that I have my lady with the scarf. I'm going to hook that into this circle here. And actually need to go from the back if I want to pop, since this stone actually has a front and a back. I need to go from this side if I want the front of the stone to be at the front of the piece. And then when you're wire wrapping something like this, it's a little awkward. Give me look bad here thing. There we go. So it's a little awkward, the actual wrapping part. So what I like to do is drop my pliers on the floor and then kind of swing it out from my frame. And unfortunately, those were the pliers that I needed. Oh my god. Because you're gonna have to get in here, son of a mother. You're gonna have to get in here really, really close. And so your round nose pliers are actually your best tool for doing that. And then you're going to just wrap around until you get down to the end that's already there. And it's not always the neatest of wraps, which is fine. And then we're going to trim that off. I actually, at my thing that I was at this weekend, got another great expression. And then when you trim, you're going to have this piece that's kind of sticking out. So you want to just press that down. Which is, if they're close enough to see that, they're also close enough to hit. So. Thank you, Keiko. Alright, so there's my pendant with my stone. And then now, obviously, you can shape this however you want. You can shape this outside however you want. You can shape this inside however you want to accommodate whatever stone you want, so you don't have to make it look like mine. And then to attach it onto its little hanger bit, I'm just going to grab a jump ring, and you want to make sure to open up the jump ring. I actually drank my caffeine when I was supposed to, so that definitely helps. And then just attach. Make sure that since I did a different finish on my back and my front, I want to make sure that the sides with the same finish are touching each other. I'm going to close up my jump ring. And then I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Like, now. Thank you. Oh, man. There's another one coming. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. So that's my pendant piece, and then I can just use and then I can use jump rings to attach that onto chain, or once again, I could continue with these little half circle pieces or any other shape that I wanted to, and I could literally make an entire collar, necklace, long piece, all of that. But that's your basic cutting and some machine polishing techniques. And yes, super shiny thanks to that awesome polish that I will post a photo on Discord with a link to Amazon. But there we go. That's it. So that's that's not the entire Casablanca necklace, but that is the meat and potatoes of the Casablanca necklace, with which you can now go create your own. So that is going to be it for the tutorial stream this Wednesday evening. Heather and I will be back in just a few minutes with a chatting stream, and I think I'm going to kind of combine. Thank you, Julie. I think I'm going to kind of combine some of your ideas of what are our favorite media in which to work, technical snafus and how to fix them, and whatever other tangents we happen to roll into. So I'm going to get off for just a couple of minutes so that I have so that I'm able to have, differentiating metrics for my two streams, but and also so that I can get myself a cocktail. But we'll be right back on, so don't go too far. Use it as time for a potty break. Get yourself a cocktail, get comfy, get cozy, and we will be back chatting at you in just a few minutes right here on twitch.tv/beadingdream. Also going to help me figure out what the actual F, speaking of technical difficulties, is up with my microphones. So, catch you in just a few. Bye, y'all.